Dr. Ethan Cole sat alone inside his small medical station on the edge of known space. Outside the window, the stars looked cold and distant. This place was far from any busy human colony, and he liked it that way. He wanted peace after so many years of war. His life was quiet now, until that night. Suddenly, the screen in front of him flashed red. Unknown distress signal detected, the computer said in a calm voice. Ethan leaned forward. A distress signal was common in space. But this one was strange. The signal code did not match any human ships. The language looked unknown. His heart started to beat faster. Who could it be? He whispered. He checked the signal location. It was coming from an asteroid field nearby. It was a dangerous place to fly, full of rocks and debris. But someone out there was calling for help. For a moment, he hesitated. He could ignore it. It was not his problem. But his hands moved quickly, preparing his small shuttle for launch. Deep inside, he knew he could not leave someone to die. Within minutes, Ethan was flying into the dark asteroid field. The rocks around him were huge and spinning slowly in space. He moved carefully, avoiding collisions. Then he saw it. A strange ship was trapped between two giant asteroids. The ship was not human design. Smooth silver lines and glowing blue symbols covered its surface. The front was smashed, and smoke drifted into space. "Is anyone alive?" Ethan called on the radio. No answer. He landed his shuttle carefully on the wrecked ship and put on his spacesuit. As he stepped inside, the lights flickered weakly. The hallway was silent except for small sparks and the hum of damaged engines. He moved forward, searching for survivors. Then he found her. At the end of the corridor, lying on the floor, was a young alien woman. She was beautiful, but different, pale skin with a soft glow, long silver hair, and wearing fine clothes torn from the crash. Her breathing was weak, and her eyes were half closed. Ethan quickly scanned her with his medical device. Her pulse was fading. He knelt beside her. "It's okay. You're going to be okay," he said gently, even though he knew she didn't understand his words. Suddenly, his device beeped a warning. Enemy ships approaching. Ethan's blood ran cold. On the scanner, 3 small ships were coming fast toward him. Who are they? Pirates? Bounty hunters? He thought. There was no time. He picked up the alien woman carefully and rushed back to his shuttle as he strapped her into the seat. Her eyes opened just a little. She looked at him, frightened, but also trusting, as if she felt he was her only hope. Ethan started the engines and lifted off, just as the enemy ships entered the asteroid field. He flew fast, weaving between rocks. One of the enemy ships fired a shot, and an explosion shook his shuttle. But he kept going. The alien woman closed her eyes again, weak and injured. Ethan felt a strange need to protect her, even though he didn't know who she was. After a tense chase, Ethan finally reached open space. The enemy ships could not follow. He jumped into hyperspace, escaping at the last second. Inside his small medical bay, Ethan laid the alien woman gently on the table. He removed her helmet. Her face was peaceful now, but she was badly hurt. "Who are you?" he whispered again, brushing silver hair from her face as he prepared to treat her. The computer suddenly spoke again. Identity match detected. Royal code confirmed. She is the daughter of King Zareth of the Thalorian Empire. Atea froze. The Thalorian Empire was powerful, ancient, and very far from this part of space. What was the king's daughter doing here? Why was she alone? His mind raced with questions, but one thing was clear. He had just rescued a royal princess, and out there, somewhere, dangerous forces were still hunting her. The screen flashed once more, a message in strange alien letters. Ethan did not understand it, but it made one thing clear: return her or die. The hook was set. Ethan knew his quiet life was over. He was now part of something much bigger and much more dangerous. The hum of the engines was the only sound inside Ethan's small shuttle as it flew through hyperspace. The alien princess lay on the medical bed, her breathing slow but steady now. Ethan kept glancing at her face. She looked peaceful, but her body was still weak. He couldn't stop thinking about what the computer had told him, daughter of King Zareth. Royal blood. Ethan whispered to himself, what is a Thalorian princess doing out here, alone? His thoughts were interrupted when the warning lights flashed again. Enemy ships detected. Tracking signal active. Ethan's eyes widened. Even in hyperspace, they could find him. But how? Then he saw a small glowing device hidden inside the princess's royal clothes. It was a tracking beacon. Whoever attacked her ship must have planted it before he arrived. With careful hands, Ethan removed the beacon and crushed it under his boot. That should slow them down, he said. But he knew it wasn't over. The enemies were hunting her, and they would not stop. Hours passed as Ethan searched for a safe place to hide. His ship could not return to human space too far. Too risky, and Thalorian space was even more dangerous for a lone human. Then he remembered a derelict space station deep inside a nebula. Abandoned long ago, but still working. He made his decision quickly. The nebula's clouds would hide him from sensors. When Ethan's shuttle arrived, the station looked old and broken. Metal walls rusted, power weak. But it would do. Ethan carried the princess in his arms again, her body still limp but slightly warmer. Her silver hair brushed against his shoulder. For a moment, he felt something strange a need to protect her, not just as a doctor, but as a person. Inside the station, he found a dusty medbay. Machines old, but working. He gently placed her on a bed and connected the machines to monitor her health. Her eyes fluttered open for a second. She looked straight at him, this human stranger. She could not speak his language, but her gaze said everything: fear, pain, and maybe hope. Suddenly, the old station's sensors beeped softly. A lone enemy scout ship was near, scanning the nebula. Ethan froze. If they found him, it would be over. He quickly powered down every light and system, leaving only life support for the princess. He crouched near a window, watching as the enemy ship passed close, searching, then finally turning away. They were safe for now. As the quiet returned, Ethan sat beside the princess again. He studied her alien face carefully, so different yet beautiful in a strange way. She stirred, whispering something in her language. He couldn't understand her words, but they were soft, like a plea. Then she reached out weakly, grabbing his hand. Even in sleep, she wanted to know she wasn't alone. Ethan held her hand gently and whispered, "Don't worry. I'll protect you." Hours later, while checking her vitals, Ethan noticed something strange. Her wounds were healing faster than expected, but her heart rate remained unstable. She needed something. But what? Her alien body was different from any patient he'd treated before. Ethan realized he would have to learn quickly how her species worked. There was no time. He would have to experiment, improvise, succeed. Her life depended on it. Outside, the nebula swirled with beautiful, glowing clouds, hiding the silent station. But out in space, ships were gathering. Bounty hunters, mercenaries, and even Thalorian royal guards. All searching for one thing: the missing princess. And now, the lonely human doctor was caught right in the middle. The abandoned station felt cold and silent as Ethan worked carefully. Beside the medical bed, the alien princess's body glowed faintly in the dim light. Her breathing was weak but steady thanks to his quick actions. Ethan's mind raced. He had saved many lives before, but this was different. She wasn't human. Her biology was strange. 2 hearts, glowing veins, and cells that healed fast, but not like humans. His tools beeped with confusing results. "How do I treat someone like you?" he whispered. She stirred, her silver hair shining softly as her head turned. Her eyes fluttered open, bright and shimmering. She spoke a soft word in her language. Katheri? He didn't understand, but her voice was filled with emotion. Ethan decided to scan her again. As he read the data, one detail shocked him. Her body needed a rare mineral thalorium to stabilize her organs. Thalorium wasn't found in human stations, but Ethan remembered. The derelict station itself was once a mining outpost. There might be some left. He checked the old storage maps and found a cargo bay deep in the dark, abandoned part of the station. He grabbed a flashlight and his emergency tool, leaving the princess resting as machines beeped softly around her. The cargo bay was vast and filled with crates. Shadows danced on the walls as Ethan walked carefully between the piles. Strange sounds echoed, creaks, drips, and something else, suddenly, a loud clang. He spun around, pointing his flashlight. A small maintenance droid stared back at him. Its metal body rusted, but still moving. It beeped a strange greeting. Ethan smiled with relief. Just an old machine. He kept searching and finally found a crate labeled thalorium ore. The container was dusty, but inside was enough for what he needed. Just as he lifted the mineral, the station shook. An alert flashed on the wall. Incoming ship detected. His heart raced. Already, how did they find me? To the medbay. The princess was awake now, sitting weakly, holding the blanket around her. Her glowing eyes locked onto Ethan's as he entered. Ethan crushed the thalorium into powder and mixed it with a serum. "This should help you." "I hope," he said gently. She did not resist as he injected the serum into her arm. A moment passed, then another. Suddenly, her breathing calmed. Her pale skin glowed brighter and her posture straightened. The thalorium was working. Her lips parted, and she spoke softly, still in her alien language, but with a grateful tone. Her eyes softened as she gently touched his hand. Even though they could not speak the same language, Ethan could feel the meaning, trust, and gratitude. Then the station shook again. Another alarm. Enemy ship docking. Ethan looked at the princess. She was still. Weak, but stronger now. He handed her a small energy pistol from his emergency locker. "Can you fight?" he asked. She didn't understand the words, but when she took the pistol, her grip was steady. A spark of determination shone in her gaze. They stood together. In the medbay, as footsteps echoed from the docking bay. Enemies had arrived. Ethan whispered, "I saved your life. We fight together." The scene ended with tension rising. A human doctor and an alien princess, praying for a battle they might not win, but they would not give up. End of part 3, ready for part 4. Just say start with part 4 inches, and I'll continue. Exciting, suspenseful, and simple English style. You said, start with part 4, more unique. ChatGPT said, part 4, enemy at the door, HFY Sci-fi story, simple English. Third-person style. The old space station creaked as heavy footsteps echoed down the metal corridor. Ethan's pulse quickened. He and the alien princess hid behind the medbay door, holding their weapons tight. The alarm still flashed. Enemy ship docked. Intruders on board. The princess's breathing was steadier now. Thalorium. Serum had worked. She stood next to Ethan, pale but strong, her glowing eyes sharp and focused. Ethan whispered, "Stay behind me if anything happens." The princess didn't understand the words, but she understood the look in his eyes. Protection, courage. Suddenly, a voice crackled through an old speaker above them, rough and cruel. "Human doctor, we know you're here. Hand over the princess, and we'll let you live." The princess stiffened, her face pale but determined. Ethan narrowed his eyes. He didn't trust their promise. He had seen what mercenaries did to captives. He checked his weapon. Low charge, but enough for a fight. The princess gripped her small energy pistol tightly, her hands trembling slightly. But her expression strong. The door hissed open. A tall bounty hunter stepped in, armored head to toe. His helmet glowed red, and 2 more mercenaries followed him, weapons raised. For a moment, there was silence. A tense, frozen second where no one moved. Then, Ethan fired first. A flash of light lit the room. The blast hit one mercenary's armor, knocking him back. The other fired at Ethan, but the shot missed, burning. A hole in the wall. The princess stepped forward bravely. Despite her weakness, she fired her small pistol, a direct hit. The second mercenary fell. The leader roared with anger, rushing at Ethan. The fight became close and dangerous. Ethan ducked behind a table as shots flew past him. Sparks rained down from the ceiling. The princess, though weak, stood beside Ethan. She reached out suddenly and touched a glowing symbol on the wall. The old station responded. Doors slammed shut around the enemy, trapping them in a force field. Ethan looked at her in surprise. She smiled weakly. She had known the station's ancient technology. It was probably built by her people long ago. The last mercenary, their leader, growled behind his helmet. He smashed his weapon against the force field, but he was trapped. For now, they were safe again. Breathing hard, Ethan turned to the princess. "You saved us," he said, amazed. She couldn't understand his words, but she understood his gratitude. She smiled faintly and nodded, sitting down again. Her energy was running low, but her spirit was strong. Ethan checked the scanners. More ships were approaching outside larger ones. He whispered grimly, "They'll send more. We can't. Stay here." Then he looked at the princess. He knew there was only one way forward now. Find her people. Contact her father, King Zareth. Return her home. But time was running out. Outside, enemy ships circled like sharks. The bounty hunters had failed, but others would come. Inside, a bond was growing between the human doctor and the alien princess. A bond of trust, and something more. The silent station drifted through. The nebula hiding their secret for now. The quiet after the fight felt heavy. The old station groaned as it drifted in the swirling nebula. But Ethan could feel the danger wasn't over. The princess sat nearby, her back resting against the wall. Her silver hair shimmered in the dim light, and though she looked tired, her eyes were full of strength. She trusted Ethan now, her human rescuer. But they both knew they couldn't hide forever. Ethan walked over to the dusty console on the wall. The screen was old, cracked, and flickered weakly. He wiped the dust off with his sleeve and took a deep breath. "Computer," he said, "show communication channels." The screen listed channels in ancient alien script. Ethan didn't recognize the language, but the princess did. She stood slowly and pointed to one line of text glowing on the screen. Her finger trembled slightly as she pressed it. The console buzzed to life, lights glowing brighter than before. A secure royal channel. A direct link to her father, King Zareth. Ethan didn't waste time. He activated the transmitter, not sure what to say. Your Majesty, this is Dr. Ethan Cole. I've rescued your daughter. She's safe. She needs help. Please, listen." His words felt clumsy, but he hoped the message would get through. The princess gently took the communicator and spoke in her own language, soft and musical, but serious. Ethan couldn't understand her words, but her tone was strong. She was telling her father where she was, and that Ethan had saved her life. After a few moments, she lowered the communicator and looked at Ethan with hope in her eyes. She nodded. The message was sent. But before they could relax, alarms blared again. Multiple ships approaching. Hostile signatures detected. Ethan's stomach twisted. They had been found again, too quickly this time. The princess stood. Beside him, her eyes full of worry but also courage, Ethan spoke softly. "We need time. Just need to hold on until your father arrives." Outside, enemy ships began surrounding the station. Shadows of their hulls moved across the nebula clouds, glowing in strange light. Inside, Ethan prepared defenses. He sealed doors, activated old shields, and charged the few remaining weapons on the station. The princess helped where she could, showing him ancient control panels he didn't understand, even though they couldn't speak the same language. They worked as a team now to survivors fighting together. Suddenly, a noise echoed through the corridors, magnetic clamps locking. Onto the station hull. The enemy was preparing to board again. The princess looked at Ethan, then reached into her torn uniform and pulled out a small, glowing crystal, a personal seal of the royal family. She pressed it into Ethan's hand. He stared at it, confused. "What is this?" he whispered. She placed her hand gently over his heart and spoke one word: trust. Ethan understood the meaning, even if he didn't know the language. She was trusting him with her life, and maybe more. The door shook. As the enemies prepared to break in, Ethan whispered, "Hold on. Help is coming. I promise." As the first sparks flew from the door's lock, far in the distance, hidden behind the nebula clouds, a shadow appeared on the scanner. A huge warship, bigger than anything Ethan had ever seen before, was approaching fast. It was not an enemy. It was the royal flagship of King's Are. Help had finally come, but would it arrive in time? The old station shook hard as enemy soldiers prepared to break in. Sparks flew from the door lock as cutting tools sliced the metal apart. Ethan stood in front of the princess, blaster in hand, ready to fight again, even though he was tired. The princess stood behind him, but no longer weak. Her glowing eyes, fierce with courage. Suddenly, the computer let out a loud alert. New ship detected. Massive power signature. Identity confirmed. Royal Thalorian flagship. Ethan's heart leaped. The king. "He's here," he whispered. Outside, the nebula clouds parted, revealing a giant ship, the royal flagship of King Zareth himself. The ship was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, with shining silver armor and glowing blue symbols. It dwarfed the enemy ships completely. The flagship's weapons activated. Glowing with power, a voice echoed through every speaker on the station, strong, deep, and full of command. "This is King Zareth. Cease your attack immediately. Stand down or be destroyed." The enemy soldiers hesitated. The bounty hunters and their ships began to scatter in fear. But one stubborn enemy leader shouted from behind the locked door, "Take them now. The king is far. They can't stop us yet." Just as the door broke open, a blinding blue light filled the corridor. A teleportation beam appeared in front of Ethan and the princess, a rescue team from the royal ship. Without wasting a second, Ethan felt himself and the princess lifted into the beam. The enemy soldiers fired wildly, but it was too late. In a flash of light, they disappeared from the old station. A heartbeat later, they materialized safely inside. The command chamber of the royal flagship. Ethan gasped as he looked around. The chamber was large and elegant, decorated with glowing crystals and alien symbols. At the far end stood a tall figure, King Zareth himself. The king looked powerful and regal, his golden armor shining, his eyes glowing faintly like his daughter's. His face was stern, but when he saw his daughter alive and safe, his expression softened with deep relief. The princess stepped forward slowly, speaking in her native language, telling her father everything. Ethan stood back, unsure what to do. This was not his world. He was just a human doctor caught in something far bigger. But after hearing his daughter's words, King Zareth approached Ethan. The king's deep voice filled the room. You human doctor. You saved my daughter's life and defended her with your own. You risked everything." For a moment, there was silence. Then the king removed a golden chain from around his neck and placed it gently in Ethan's hands. "This is a royal token of gratitude." The king said, his voice calm but strong, "But my debt is not paid yet." He turned to his daughter, who stood beside Ethan now, and spoke gently to her in their language. She looked at Ethan, her glowing eyes soft and warm. Then she took his hand in front of everyone. The king spoke again, loud and clear. "You will not just leave here with a reward. You have earned the right to stand beside my daughter, her chosen protector, and more. If you accept," Ethan froze. The king was offering not just thanks, but his daughter's hand in marriage. The princess squeezed his hand gently, her gaze full of gratitude, respect, and something deeper outside. The enemy ships fled as the royal fleet secured the nebula. Inside, Ethan stood before a king and an entire empire. Realizing his life had just changed forever, the war-weary human doctor, who had once wanted only peace and quiet, now found himself standing beside a princess. A future he never imagined. The grand royal chamber was filled with silence as all eyes turned to Ethan. The human doctor stood awkwardly, his heart racing. A moment ago, he had been running from bounty hunters. Now, a mighty alien king was offering him the greatest reward imaginable. Not gold, not treasure, but the hand of his daughter. A princess, the princess, still holding his hand, stepped closer. She looked up at him, her silver hair glowing in the soft lights of the royal ship. Even though they did not speak the same language, Ethan felt the message in her gaze. "You saved me, you fought for me. I choose you too." The king spoke again, his voice loud and clear across the chamber. "Dr. Ethan Cole, you have earned my respect. You have proven your courage and compassion. I offer you a place at my side, as family." Ethan swallowed hard. He never wanted fame or power. He had come to this lonely corner of space to escape war, to live quietly. But everything had changed. His life had found new purpose. He gently squeezed the princess's hand and nodded slowly. "I accept," he said simply. The princess smiled warmly, her first true smile since he found her on that broken ship. She leaned close and whispered something softly in her language, a word he didn't understand. But he felt its meaning deep inside. "Beloved?" Suddenly, cheers filled the chamber. The royal guards, the crew, even the king himself smiled proudly. The king lifted a ceremonial staff and placed it between Ethan and the princess. The royal translator spoke aloud so Ethan could understand. "From this day forward, you are no longer just a guest. You are part of the Thalorian royal family, a protector, a partner, a future prince." Outside the flagship's windows, the enemy ships were gone. The nebula clouds glowed softly, no longer a place of hiding, but a symbol of where everything changed. The royal fleet turned toward home, the shining Thalorian capital, where Ethan would soon arrive not as an outsider, but as the future prince consort.